Today I'm going to show you how to create a painting inspired by Renoir's Woman in the Garden. If you're new to my channel, please support me by liking this video and be sure to stick around and check out the other amazing art videos and art lessons on my channel, Rainbow Parrot Art. And please subscribe. Pierre-Auguste Renoir was one of the most famous of the French Impressionist painters. He lived from 1841 to 1919. Like most artists of his day, he began painting in the academic style, which was taught at universities at the time, and focused on portraying mythological and historical subject matter in a realistic way. Renoir, along with his contemporaries, Claude Monet, Edgar Degas, and several others, broke away from these established norms and developed a style of painting called Impressionism. Impressionism focuses on capturing light and color in the natural world. Rough and imprecise brushstrokes are used to capture an image that looks somewhat fuzzy and out of focus. Renoir, along with other Impressionist painters, were at first criticized, but they later gained wide acceptance. This movement led to other movements like Post-Impressionism and Fauvism and influenced the modern art movements that came after it. I'm going to start by grabbing a piece of 11 by 14 inch multimedia paper. I'm first using a pencil to draw the basic shapes that I see in this painting, starting with a medium-sized circle just right of the center. At the bottom of the circle, I'm drawing two diagonal lines that fan outward. To the left of the circle, I'm adding a wavy line across the page. Starting on the bottom right, I'm making a slightly bent tree trunk with a couple branches at the top and a bushy tree canopy. And now another wavy line across the right side of the paper. Over here on the left, I'm drawing a large bushy blob that represents multiple tree canopies. And now adding a few narrow tree trunks. Finally, I'm making an oval shape on the bottom center left. I like to think of these basic shapes as the skeleton of my painting because it will guide me as I build my painting on top of these lines. I'm ready to paint, so I'm pouring some dark green, yellow, white, and brown to start off with. I'm using a size 8 round brush to make some very rough green brush strokes on my paper. I'm looking at the original painting as I work to help me decide where to add color. I'm adding some brown to the green and using this color to fill in the tree trunk. Then adding some rough dashes of green paint to the canopy. I'm filling in the circle with some rough green brush strokes. Then adding a few more dark green brush strokes to the background and using this same green to add more rough brush strokes to the tree canopy on the left. I'm painting with a few more dark green brush strokes next to the tree trunk. Then, while that green paint is still nice and wet, grabbing some yellow paint and painting right on top of the green. This has made my brush turn green, so before I get more yellow paint, I'm going to grab a Kleenex and gently pinch my brush, then windshield wiper it back and forth, then dip it in the water, and again, pinch and windshield wiper the brush back and forth. One more time, dip, pinch, and windshield wiper. This will prevent all this paint from getting washed down the drain and from going into our oceans. Now that my brush is clean and dry, I'm going to pick up some more yellow paint. I'm adding this yellow paint using short, rough brush strokes right on top of the green. In this way, the paint colors are mixing right on top of the paper. Now I'm picking up some white paint and adding some short, rough white brush strokes on top. Then once again, picking up some more white paint and adding it right on top. Now I'm going to add some more dabs of yellow paint right on top of this. You can see how I'm layering the wet colors right on top of each other, just like Renoir did in his painting. I'm taking some blue and white paint, then mixing them together and adding some chunks of blue and dashes of blue along the top where the blue sky shows through the tree canopy. Notice that I'm using the tissue to make sure my brush is clean and dry before I switch colors and add some more patches of dark green paint. While this paint is still nice and wet, I'm adding some short, rough dabs of yellow paint right on top. Notice how I'm adding this paint using short dabbing motions. You should be making a quick dab, dab, dab motion as you stamp your brush on top of the paper. Eventually, the green and the yellow paint will mix together in a very beautiful and impressionistic way. Now I'm putting a little bit of red and a little bit of yellow on my brush and making some tiny dots on the tree canopy. I'm adding these orange and then green and then yellow brush strokes to extend my tree canopy into the sky. I'm putting some more yellow dabs of paint around the tree trunk on the right. I'm adding some tiny yellow highlights on the left using tiny yellow dots of paint. I'm mixing green, yellow, and white to make a light green that I'm using for the grassy meadow on the left. Notice how I'm continuing to make brush strokes using a short tapping motion. Now that I filled this in, I'm grabbing a chunk of white paint on the tip of my brush, then adding these short white dabs of paint right on top of the wet green paint. You can see how the green and the white paint are mixing together. Then I'm making some teeny tiny dark green dots on top, and now adding some more dots using yellowish green paint, then some yellow, then some more white, then some more yellow. I'm ready to switch colors, so I'm using the tissue to get my brush nice and dry and clean. Then I'm mixing white with the tiniest bit of blue to make a very light blue. I'm using the light blue to fill in this pathway. Then I'm using some medium blue to make some fine lines on the path, then some dabs of blue paint near the bottom. I'm grabbing some red and making some red brush strokes right on top of the blue, then adding some light yellow dots of paint right on top, then adding a tiny bit of red. I'm using dark blue paint to paint a blue blob at the end of the path. This little blue blob is the body of the woman. Then a light yellow dot for the head. This tiny white shape is a sun umbrella that she's holding. The tree trunks I drew have disappeared, so I'm using a teeny tiny brush and some brown paint to add the tree trunks. Then I'm adding a tiny bit of white paint on top of the tree trunks. This makes it look like the sunlight is hitting the tree trunks. These tiny red dots are wildflowers. These yellow dots are also wildflowers. The teeny tiny white dots I'm adding are also wildflowers. And so are these blue dots. It must be spring or early summertime because this meadow looks like it's full of wildflowers. I'm touching up the tree trunk on the right, and now I'm finished. I hope you love how your painting turns out. Be sure to say hi in the comments below, and don't forget to check out the other amazing art lessons on my channel, Rainbow Parrot Art.